Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of The King's Table. My name is Michael. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. I hope that this video and the other videos on my channel are encouraging to you, that they challenge your faith, and that they help you understand that it is good to be open and honest and real with other believers and people in your life. I am a very emotion on my sleeve type of guy. I ramble. I've got ADD. My mind goes all over the place. And so my goal with this channel is to be vulnerable, to be honest, and to encourage you to do the same. And today, in my time with the Lord this morning, I was in the book of Exodus, chapter 13, and I found some very encouraging and challenging stuff that I wanted to share with you. So that's what we're going to be doing. Let's get into it. So in the book of Exodus, chapter 13, verse 17, we see the Israelites leaving Egypt to the tune of about 2 million people. It says there were 600,000 men, so including wife and kids, a lot of people. But it says, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt, equipped for battle. The equipped for battle there thing, other translations say like to the fifth generation, meaning there was a lot of people. There were a lot of people looking like an army coming out of Egypt, ready to go. And it's kind of crazy to think about. Like they were in Egypt for 430 years, I think is what it said earlier in Exodus. So they were generation on like lots of generations of people, a lot of people. But the main thing that I want to focus on here is God leading them down the path that wasn't the easiest, that wasn't the nearest. He said he didn't want them to change their minds, see war, and return to Egypt. So this right here is the map of the route that they took. And the way that they wanted to take is called the Via Maris, which was a trade route, and it's all along here, up at the top. That would have been, from an appearance standpoint, easy, very short. Like this red one is the one that they took. Here's the other one. It's like going next door, but choosing to take 10 miles instead of 100 yards to your neighbor's house. But it was called the Via Maris. It was also called the Way of the Philistines. So lots of danger there. And that's what God was saying. He was saying, I don't want to give them any opportunity to face something difficult and fall back into slavery. I think a good example of this would be when people are in very like abusive relationships, whether physical or emotional. You see them stay in it, and then when they leave to go somewhere else, it's more challenging. It's more difficult. It's not as comfortable. What's comfortable is the abuse, something that they've been used to for so long. What's uncomfortable in a weird, uncommon way is being by themselves, not being abused. And that's what God was trying to push against there, was saying, if they face something that's difficult, that's a war for them, they might want to fall back into the thing they've been stuck in for so long. And so he's pushing against that, taking them down a route that is going to be difficult. Obviously, if you read the rest of Exodus, it gets difficult and they don't like it, despite God's very clear presence in the form of a cloud, in the form of a pillar at night, in the form of the way that he provides food and all that kind of stuff. But they complain and they say, we want to go back to Egypt where there's food and all this kind of stuff. But comfort, guys, doesn't challenge us or grow us or create a reliance on God and Christ in our lives. And so God's goal here was to take them down a path where they had to rely on him. Because as you live longer in life and you go through things, you go through challenges and journeys like this that are difficult, and God grows your resilience. He grows your reliance on Him. Then down the road, when something else bad happens, instead of choosing alcohol or instead of choosing TV or doom scrolling on your phone to cope, to be comfortable, you choose to spend time in His Word and rely on Him. You choose to go on a walk and pray. You choose to wake up early the next day and spend time in the Word instead of when you wake up, just roll around in your bed, check Instagram, all of those sort of things. That sort of comfort that makes you stagnant and slothful, not only in life, but also in your relationship with Christ. And so it's really cool to see God being like, I don't want them to go down that easy road, the easy road here, that there would be food, there would be places to stay, all that kind of stuff. But there's the danger of the Philistines in a battle that could lead them back to Egypt, back to where they're comfortable. And so he takes them almost to a point of no return into the desert, and then obviously they wander around because of disobedience and all that kind of stuff. What's really crazy that I think all of us do in life as well a lot of times is, despite God's very clear presence, like it says, He leads them through with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. But with almost 2 million people walking through the desert, they were there for so long. How often do God's blessings and His presence in our life become so normal that we forget that He's there? He provides food for them. He provides the manna from heaven, and He tells them in the midst of that, only take what you need for today, because I want you to rely on me. I don't want you to save up, store up things. I want you to rely on me daily. And when they don't do that, bad things happen. And so He's trying to grow them in their faith and their reliance on Him, so that in the future, when things happen, their choice is not to retreat to something comfortable, but their choice is to move forward to Him and His presence and growth in His presence. So as I was reading this in Exodus, it made me think of Matthew chapter 7, where we see the golden rule and the narrow gate. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law of the prophets. Goes on to say, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it may be many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. The easy route, with lots of food, with comfort, way shorter for the Israelites, would have been going down the Via Maris, that trade route, the way of the Philistines. The difficult way was the way that God took them. And that is often going to be the case in our lives, more than often. I would say almost always. The walk of a Christian is a challenging one, so that we can grow and so that we can recognize our reliance on God and His provision in our life daily relying on His provision. I just thought this was cool. So later on in Matthew, a very clear example of what it looks like. The Israelites wanted to go the easy way, but immediately when they left Egypt, when they left what was comfortable, God made them rely on Him. They made them trust in His way, not the way that appeared easy, not the way that appeared established or anything like that. And there's another verse in 1 Corinthians that I think is really, really good here too for us to look at, from chapter 10, verse 13 right here. It says, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. How encouraging is that? Like, I think so often people don't talk to others because they think they're the only one going through something. Oh, I'm the only one who's struggling um, with this or that, like whatever it may be, whatever the way that you cope in life is. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. And I think that that's really encouraging to know, but also just so clear here with the Israelites as they're leaving Exodus. Like the temptation to retreat back to what was comfortable was a common thing. That's what all of us do. And on a very large scale, there, God was saying, I don't want them to have the option to face these battles and want to retreat back to Egypt. But even down the route that they took, some of them still fell short despite God's very clear presence and wanted to return to what was comfortable. It goes on to say, God is faithful and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. What I think is very interesting here is that I think a lot of times, because it says he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, a lot of times when things get difficult, we say, oh no, God doesn't want this. God doesn't want me to be doing this because this is too hard. That's not what he's saying. He says his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Doesn't say there is no burden. The burden is still there. He's just saying, hey, I'm going to be in this with you. I'm going to go with you in this. And so he would not let you be tempted beyond your ability. God wants to challenge you. How many times, for those of you who work out or run or do anything like that, how many times have you been like, I can't run anymore, and then you run more? I can't do another set. You do another set. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that. And then you recognize, wait a second, it would have been so easy for me to give up and think that I was at my limit, but I wasn't. And I think that happens in life too, especially in an emotional sense of pushing against things and saying, this is my limit. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. And God says, yes, you can. And I'm in it with you. God is faithful and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. When they were wandering around in the desert, the way of escape or the way that they could endure it was through his daily provision. They just needed to choose to rely on it. He said, don't take any extra manna. I'm providing this for you daily. I need you to trust and rely on me daily. I don't want you to store up and think, oh no, there might not be provision tomorrow. I will provide for you daily. And they just needed to endure it. Many of them chose not to. Many days I choose not to. I have struggled this week to wake up early and spend time with the Lord. Today is the first time that I woke up and read my Bible. I've been listening to podcasts and listening to Christian content and that type of stuff throughout the day, but today was the first time in 2 days that I woke up and I spent time in God's Word. And that was because I was tempted to not get out of bed because I was tired. I was tempted to just be like, oh, I'll just listen to something, which is good. It's good to do that, but you need to be more intentional in your time with somebody. Like, think about this. It's kind of like, yes, it's really, really good to have a phone call with somebody, but how much better is it to sit down with them, to talk to them face to face, to have intentional conversation than to do it over the phone. And I would kind of compare that to me spending time listening to podcasts was good. It was fruitful, but I also need to make sure that I'm intentionally spending time in the presence of the Lord, where it's He and I growing into that. And so, where I want to leave you guys this morning, as I rambled a whole bunch through all of that, is to recognize that just because you're not on the easy route doesn't mean that God is not with you. Just because things are difficult, because you're being challenged, and because God is continuing to take you down a challenging path, doesn't mean that He's mean, doesn't mean that He wants to push you to exhaustion, doesn't mean that He is going to give you something that is beyond your ability, as we see in 1 Corinthians there, even though you might think it's beyond your ability. That's the crazy thing. God makes us rely on Him because in our own strength, we are not able. That's why He uses that yoke analogy in the Bible, connected to Him, the yoke. We can't do it on our own. We need Him. We need to rely on Him. to make it down these difficult roads. Difficult road of Christianity. He says the road is narrow. Just made me think of a C.S. Lewis quote that I really want to end on. So I'm going to go find that and read that to you, and then we'll end. So in the book Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis, you have a uncle nephew talking to, or you have an uncle talking to his nephew. They're both demons, and he's trying to teach him how to tempt man, if you will. And what he says is, it does not matter how small the sins are, provided that their cumulative effect is to edge the man away from the light and out into nothing. Murder is no better than cards. Talking about gambling there. If cards can do the trick. Indeed, the safest road to hell is the gradual one. The gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, and without signposts. So what he's saying there is, the enemy won't always make you do the most significant sin, if that's how you want to say it. Obviously, all sin separates us from Christ. If he can use Instagram to challenge you lustfully, then he's not going to make you have a full-blown affair. If Instagram can slowly draw you away from Christ, then he doesn't need to go to the extreme. He's going to use the soft underfoot, the no turnings, no milestones, no signposts. It's going to be a very, very easy road. And that connects to Matthew 7 there, talking about the road and the way. And so I just want to challenge and encourage you guys, if you are in a place that is difficult right now, pursue the Lord. Rely on him, grow in your reliance on him, and spend time in prayer. He will answer those. He might not answer them when you want, but he will answer them. Sometimes his answer is going to be no, and his no is way better than our yes. When God says no to something that we want, it's way better for us and our growth in him in our life than the yes that we might be wanting. So yeah, I hope this was encouraging to you guys. Thank you for watching and hanging out. See you in the next one.